Hi everyone, I'm Cheska Robinson and welcome to your first School AI space. I'm so excited to talk to you about what School AI spaces are, why they're awesome, and how you can start using them in the classroom right away. But first, just a quick hello for me. Again, my name is Cheska Robinson and I am a School AI community coach. Prior to that, I was an EdTech coach, Google trainer, and science teacher of 15 years. My favorite summer drink, it's gotta be strawberry lemonade, and my favorite summer activity is going to the beach. Here's our learning objectives for the session. By the end of the session, you'll have a solid understanding of what School AI spaces are. We'll talk about how you can find and personalize pre-made spaces. And if you're feeling brave, you can also learn how to create custom spaces with the Space Designer Assistant. Finally, you'll learn how to use mission control to track student engagement. Now, I know that sounds like a lot, but remember this is a video recording, so feel free to pause the video, take notes. You can rewind or fast forward. Let's talk a little bit about School AI before we talk about spaces. So School AI really is an AI powered platform and it's made up of three major things. The first two are teacher facing, meaning that these are tools made specifically for teachers, and those are tools and assistants. Tools are your AI document generators to help you with your planning. Assistants are AI helpers or chatbots that are programmed specifically for teachers. The last component of School AI is Spaces, and this is the student-facing part of School AI. Spaces are student learning zones, or technically they are chatbots that are programmed specifically for student use. The key thing to know about School AI is that it was built with educators in mind. So we have three keywords here: safety, structure, and purpose. Let's hone in now on what a School AI space is. Essentially, it is an interactive learning experience that's designed by you, the teacher, to support and engage all of your students. Teachers and students love spaces, mostly because one, it's a time saver. It helps reduce the prep pressure for teachers. And they're flexible. They can fit in any classroom moment. So teachers can use them for formative checks. They can be used at any point of their instruction, beginning, middle, and end. And you can also use spaces as substitute teacher lesson plans. For students, they love spaces because it allows them to share their voice. They get private AI interaction where they are able to express themselves through low-risk reflection, and they also get real-time built-in feedback. But here really is the most exciting part about School AI spaces, and that's mission control. Mission Control is a teacher dashboard, and here you'll find real-time data on all of your students. You'll learn who's engaging with the activity, who's struggling with the activity, and you'll also see how learning is progressing without the extra grading. So pause for a moment here and let's think. Where could a space lie in your teaching load? Where in your teaching day do you often feel stretched thin? So maybe it could be during formative checks, or maybe you're struggling with finding meaningful activities for your early finishers. Whatever that is, that's a great place to start with a space. So we're going to talk about discovering pre-made spaces first. And in a few minutes, I'll be jumping out of my Canva presentation and I'll walk you through how to find these pre-made spaces on School AI. So to highlight a few things that you might find in the Discover page, you'll find the common activity templates, the subject tutors, the monthly and seasonal spaces, and learning activity collections. I encourage you to try out one or both of these spaces. The first one is a bell ringer or warm-up activity, and you can try it out in the point of view of a student. And then the second one is called a Taste of School AI, and I consider it as a sampler. So you can brainstorm with it and come up with ideas on how you can use spaces in your own classroom. Feel free to take out your cell phone and scan the QR code, or if you're on a desktop or laptop, you can also type in those URL addresses below. At this point, you can pause and explore the spaces, but I'm going to now jump out and go onto the SchoolAI website. All right, so let's create a new tab here and type in the URL address schoolai.com in your Omnibox. And here, let's go ahead and sign up or sign in. If you have never used SchoolAI before, it is going to walk you through some steps to create a free teacher account. And if you have used SchoolAI before, you'll see what it did to me. It'll walk you through a single sign-on and launch you straight into the main website. So you can pause here, and then I'll meet you again in the main website, and let's talk about how we can find this pre-made spaces. So right here on the menu bar, you'll find those three components that we talked about before. Here's tools, assistants, and spaces. And then you'll also find the boxes on the right. Here's the box for tools. Here's the box for assistants. And if you're curious to know more about spaces or tools or assistants, you can also check out these resources in this box right here. And feel free to join the SchoolAI educator community. But now let's go ahead and click on Spaces since that's our focus for today. Click on the drop-down menu and select Discover. Oops. All right, so here we are in the Discover page. You can search for a space by typing in a topic here in the search bar, or you can also search by your content standard. We have several sections where you can also find spaces. So here we have the common activities. Here's a section of spaces that you might, once you start playing around with the spaces, this is where you'll find spaces that you've launched or spaces that you've created. Here we have a section on popular and trending spaces, our featured creators, and these are all either educators or former educators. We have a section on subject tutors, spaces for pedagogy. Here's our monthly and seasonal spaces. And then finally, we have our learning activity spaces, spaces for writing and history. Now I'm just going to go back up here to the top and highlight our common activities for a second. So common activities are template spaces that you can fill out with your classroom information, and it will automatically generate questions that you can share with your classroom. So you can use bell ringer or exit ticket for that. A common question that we usually get from teachers is, what's the difference between Sidekick and a regular space? If you notice, I've hovered over Sidekick and it has a little description. So consider Sidekick as your student's very own AI assistant. So right now, there's a lot of age limits, especially for their younger students, where they are not able to use ChatGPT or Gemini or Copilot because it's 13 plus or 18 plus. So Sidekick is a great opportunity for students to have exposure to their own AI. And I'm thinking about the secondary teachers where you have 25 or more students in one class, and you need to be able to provide each student with one-on-one support. So Sidekick is a great tool for that. In my previous work as a science teacher, I've used Sidekick to help me guide my students as we work through the lab report writing process. So that's another way that you can use Sidekick in the classroom. All right, so feel free to explore the discovery page and try looking for one or two spaces that you can start using with your students. I'm going to head on down to the subject tutor over here, and let's launch Sam the Science Tutor. So once I click on Sam the Science Tutor, you'll notice that it launches the preview page. So on the left side, there are typically descriptions of what the space does. And then you'll see a preview window where you can test out the space for yourself. Let me just move my camera over here. All right, and then on the bottom left side here, you'll see an area for more options. And here you can write descriptions of who your audience is and some instructions on what you would like for this session. You don't need to fill it out necessarily if you're just exploring and using pre-made spaces right now. You also have these buttons down below, so if you're finished previewing your space, you can launch it and share it live with your students. You can also bookmark this space and it will be saved up here in your organized tab. And my favorite icon is this paper plane icon because you can also grab the link and share that link with your other teachers. So if I'm a science teacher and I work in a department or a team or in a professional learning community, I can start collaborating with my other science teachers and we can start building resources and spaces together for vertical alignment and horizontal alignment. So typically, when I am working with teachers and I talk to them and share with them spaces, my recommendation is to preview a pre-made space and role play at least 1 to 3 times. You can role play as a struggling student, you can role play as one of your accelerated students, or you can also role play as one of your disengaged students. And I try to do this enough times. I try to have enough interactions with the space so that I can see how this one space is able to adapt its responses for each and individual student. So here you'll notice in the preview pane, there are a couple of accessibility buttons. There's the speak button where you and your students can click on it and have the text read out loud to you. And then down here, you can text your message, or you can also click and hold this microphone icon where you can speak and it will transcribe your speech to text. And that way you'll start having a conversation with your space. So here I'm just going to try a few interactions. I'll say that I am a 5th grade student. Sidebar, this is also an excellent teaching moment with your students. You can also model how you would like your students to interact with the space. So whether that is typing out complete sentences as the responses or keywords or phrases, that's really up to you. The AI space will understand and adapt its responses no matter what. So here, let's talk about cells. And then I'm going to start role-playing as a disengaged student. I will put this next through its IDK or I don't know test. And I'm curious to see how the space will adapt to that. So typically I like to push it a couple of times and quote break the space just to see where there might be gaps and I might need to remix this and work on the prompt to make it better. But that's coming up next. All right, so I like that even though I did the IDK test, it wasn't frustrated. It just kind of reassured the student and redirected the student here. All right, so let's say that I am okay and I'd like to use this space. So now what we can do is go ahead and launch the space. So we have 3 options here in sharing the space with a student. You can share this with your learning management system, whether it's Canvas or Google Classroom. And if you don't have any of those LMSs, you can also use the far left here, and you can share the space code. So typically what I'll do is I'll project this onto my screen and students on their Chromebooks will log on, type the SchoolAI website, and then enter this join code. If you're in a school where cell phones are allowed, you can also direct your students to take out their cell phones, scan this QR code, and enter the join code. So let me go ahead and copy this join code, and I'll also model out for you how you can teach your students to join a SchoolAI space for the first time. So again, you will be directing your students to the SchoolAI website, and then they will be clicking on this button over here that says Enter Student Code. Students can type in their first name or a nickname, and then this is where that join code comes in. The lovely thing about this, now that we're going to see a space from the student point of view, there's no personal identification, personal identifying information involved here, because students are not really logging in. It's just the first name. So let's click on join, and now it pushes the student in through the space. So very similar to the teacher point of view when we preview the space ourselves, we have a description of the space here for the students. And then here is where the interactions will begin between the space and the student. They can also click the speak button to have the text read out loud, and also click and hold on the microphone icon here, and they can have their speech transcribed to text. The student space has additional accessibility features, and they are up here on the top right. So students can click on this Vitruvian Man icon or accessibility icon, and if they're having trouble reading the text on the screen, they can turn on the easy read mode. If you also have students who are English language learners, they can click on this second icon here, the language icon, and they can actually have the text in the space translated to another language. So for example, I can go ahead and click on Spanish, and we do have a large list of languages available here. And once I start interacting with this space, the space will now be translated in Spanish. So let me go ahead and role play as a 7th grade student here. And then once that pops up, you'll notice that the text will now be translated in Spanish. And that's perfect. So as a teacher, you don't have to worry about toggling the language button on and off. While your students are interacting in a different language, you can jump in on the mission control dashboard, and all of the student data and insights will be in English. So I envision using Sam the science tutor as a science teacher, having an open link to him in my learning management system, Google Classroom. If I am going to start a new unit, let's say on cells, I'm also going to have Sam the science tutor, a link to him in my Google Classroom. That way, whenever my students are struggling with a lesson or activity in the classroom, they can pull up Sam the science tutor and get tutoring feedback or instant review with the space. And likewise, my ELL students can also pull up Sam the Science Tutor if they're struggling with content vocabulary in the classroom. And that way, they have this instant support available to them. So let's go ahead and jump out of Sam the Space Tutor. So you've seen that now from the student point of view. And here, back on the teacher facing site, once I've launched Sam the Science Tutor, it will lead you to the mission control. So right now there's not a lot of information. It was just only me who signed in as a student. But let's talk a little bit about some of the buttons here, and then I'll show you what a mission control looks like with student information. So here I have a couple of buttons. So if I have a student that came in late to class, I can click on the invite button again and just project the QR code or the join link so that that student can join. Let's say there's a fire alarm or fire drill happening. I can also click pause here, and my students can go safely outside, and when we come back in the classroom, I can also press resume, and the students can start interacting again with that space. Likewise, if I forgot some instructions and I need to get their attention back, I can also click on pause, and that way the students will not continue to interact with their screens and the space. They will be looking to me for the instructions, and then I can press resume again and they can get back to interacting with the space. Over here are some tags, so you can definitely run the same space multiple times for different class periods or classes. So then I can add a tag here just to let myself know which period or class interacted when I'm going back into mission control. Finally, Once I'm done using this space with my students, I can go ahead and click End, and it will generate a summary for me on how all of my students did with the space. So I'll just go ahead and end this session since there's no one in here. And I'm going to jump back into my main Launchpad or dashboard, and you can see where the recent sessions are. So recent sessions that you've launched are at the bottom of your main page. Here's that same design tutor space that I just launched and ended a few minutes ago. This is also where you can find active sessions. So here is that bell ringer and SchoolAI sampler that I shared with you earlier. And then you'll also notice that I am sharing an exit ticket with you at the end of this session. All right, so I'm going to share with you a view of the mission control with some student data in it. So this was the space. It's called Hero, the health and fitness tutor. And I actually shared this space with PE teachers. So spaces are not just for students. If you're a tech coach or if you're an admin, you can absolutely use spaces for professional development training or for your PLCs. So these PE teachers, they started interacting with the space, and now you'll see some data populating my mission control. Over here is a list in alphabetical order of all of my students who've logged in or signed in to this space. And in the middle column here, you'll notice some emojis, and we call them sentiments. And I love them because it's a nice way to see at a glance of how my students are doing. So I can see that Alex here, he's feeling quite positive as he's interacting with this space. And then over here, next to that sentiment, there's a headline or sentence summary that shows me what he's doing or what he's talking about with this space. If I continue to scroll down, I'll notice that dude is grayed out, and that just means that this student hasn't had enough time to interact with the space. So maybe dude is just coming into the classroom, maybe he had a meeting or had a session with a speech therapist. So this tells me that while everyone else is working and with the space, I can just go over to dude and check in on him, make sure that he's settling in and getting to work with the space. So down here, you can see Maddie isn't feeling quite as positive as Alex, but she's feeling neutral, and I can tell that she's still interacting, she's still engaged with the space, but she might need some guidance from me. And finally, you can see down here that there's a student called me, and their sentiment is showing that they're feeling quite negative. So at a glance, I know that this is the student where I need to triage. This is the student that I need to check in with first, and then I'll go and check in on Maddie, and then maybe I'll go check in and Dude. So that's a nice way for me to prioritize of who I need to check in first. So Maddie here is feeling quite negative, and her headline is saying that she's interacting with the space and expressing burnout, and she needs support and encouragement from me. So I can pull up a complete transcript between the student me and the space. So by clicking on her name, I have this panel that opens up, and I can pull up and see what she's talking about with the space. So again, the space is telling me she's expressing burnout. And then here's the quick summary of her chat transcript. If I scroll down, this student has chosen to talk about mental health with this health and fitness tutor. And she's expressed that she's feeling burned out. It's the end of the school year, and they're feeling quite tired. And as you go through the chat transcript, she's expressing that she would like to fall asleep sooner, and she's looking for ideas within the space on how to do that. So this is a great opportunity for me to just check in with her individually. So if the student was a virtual student, I can go down here in the chat box and send the student a private message and say, hey, I noticed that you weren't doing so well with your check-in with the space. How's everything? Is there something I can do to help? Or if the student was with me in person in the classroom, I can go to her or him and just check in. And maybe even if I have that relationship with the student, I can say, this worries me. Is it okay with you if I share your conversation or just give a heads up to your school counselor? That way, we're able to provide the student with real-time support. And really, this is what I love about the mission control. I think that this is the heart of School AI Spaces, getting the data and being able to do something with it instantly. All right. The last part to talk about on mission control is the summary side. So you get the summary once you end the session, and the summary will provide you with some summary insights. So here it tells me that 9 students interacted with this space and they wanted to learn more about pickleball. And 4 other students, aside from the me student, expressed having trouble falling asleep. If I continue to scroll down, I will also have individual insights on students. And then this is great because then I can create an action plan and follow up with the students individually as they're working or doing guided practice or, during lunch, whatever time I have to make those connections with my students. The other thing that I love about mission control is not only do I get this alphabetical list of students, I can also toggle to the groups button here. And if I was using this space as a formative check, it will provide me with suggested grades. So since all of these PE teachers are experiencing this space for the first time, it's understandable that no one's in the A group. But it's really good to see that they are doing well and that they are in the suggested B group. Again, I can click on individual names here and pull up an individual chat transcript and also see their insights. You also notice that there's no one in the C group, and that's okay as well too. So with most of my students being in the B group, I love that one. There is a sentence summary of how my students are doing. Where are they in their learning progress? And I absolutely love this part. I get a follow-up suggestion. So after I run the space with my students, I also have an idea of what to do next in my instruction. So I can create small group or whole group discussions the next day, and we could talk about what they learned about pickleball or, have them do a passion project about the other group fitness activities that they were looking at with the space. And I can also use tools and assistants to create a lesson plan or create student resources to help them master those concepts that they were researching with this particular space. So that is mission control in a nutshell. And like I said, really the heart of spaces and the number one reason why I recommend SchoolAI and SchoolAI spaces to all of my teachers. All right, so we've talked about where to go on SchoolAI to find pre-made spaces, how to launch one and share with your students, and then using mission control to track student engagement. Let's talk about remixing a space. All right, so first, let's talk about why we need to remix a space. So there's lots of reason, and you can remix a space because maybe as you go through the Discover page, you might not find one that is exactly to your wants or needs. So you might find a space that's pretty close, and then that's when you can remix it and make it your own. So you can customize it to your students. You can align a specific space to your state or district standards. You can align it to your school mission and values. And you can also make a space culturally and contextually relevant for your students. So as you're exploring Discover page and you're looking for spaces, after you try and launch one for your students, I also encourage you to try remixing. You don't have to do everything at once. You can just try one change. So you can change the grade level. You can change the tone of the assistant. Maybe you found one that's more direct instruction, so you can change it so that it's more experiential for your students. You can say something along the lines of, hey, let's make this more project-based or problem-based. And I love the last one here. I love making or remixing a space by adding some dad jokes or inside jokes that I have with my students. And that little tweak just makes it the more engaging for my students. So I'm going to hop out of my Canva presentation again and go on back to our SchoolAI page. So let's say goodbye to the mission control and go on back to the discover page here. And this time I'm just going to use the search bar and type in cells to look for a space on cells. So as I scroll here, you'll notice that there's a lot that are very similar or the exact same. And that just means that this one teacher created the space and another teacher remixed it and added their own flair to it. So I'll stick with this for our second space here and show you how we can remix it. So any space is remixable as long as you can find this remix button down here. So let's click on that. And now it will bring us to the space creator. This is the back end of the spaces. So there's the title field box, and then here's the AI prompt field box. Let me just go ahead and make that a little bigger so you can see. So I'm just going to go ahead and change the title, and I'll make it shorter. It doesn't have to be this big long sentence here. Cell theory. And then I can go through this field box and take a look at how this teacher wrote their prompt so that the space works. And I can see that this teacher basically just copied and pasted the standards for modern cell theory. Nothing saying that there's anything wrong with that. That's absolutely okay. It will work, and obviously it works when the space is run. But this is a great skeleton of the space, and I'm going to go ahead and add some prompting to make it my own and make it work for my students. So I noticed that there's nothing in that previous AI prompt about what grade level it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in adapt the space to 7th grade. And I'll go ahead and add 7th grade New York Next Generation Science Standards. We could definitely just leave it here. One change is enough, but I'll go ahead and add one more. So I know that my students are really into Taylor Swift and football. So I want to give them that framework that they can use, that they already know, to apply, to try to apply a new concept to a framework that they already know. So let's say something along the lines of give students the option to learn this content through the lens of Taylor Swift or football. All right, so I'm going to pause there, and then I'll just go ahead and bring back my dashboard so you can see the window pane here as well. So let's go ahead and start the preview. So anytime that you're remixing a space, consider it as a back and forth dialogue or conversation. So I'll start the preview, make sure that it works the way I want it. And if it's not, I'll go back and tweak my prompt some more and then preview it again. So here I love that it has a great intro, and then it allows the students to choose how they learn, whether it's through Taylor Swift style or football style. And here I'll go ahead and role play as a student and see how it responds. All right, I love it. So now it's talking about Taylor Swift. And it's using that framework as an analogy or framework for these students to learn the new content. All right, perfect. So I'm going to leave it as that. And then let's talk about the rest of this left side panel. So one of the things I recommend my teachers using is this paperclip icon. And you can upload any artifacts so that the AI can use it as a reference and make your space better, make it more personalized for your students. So if I have a PDF of a previous lesson plan on cell theory, I will go ahead and upload that. if I have a Google document or a Microsoft Word document on science standards that go along with the specific topic, then I'll also go ahead and upload that. If I have a rubric for any activities that I've used in the past for this lesson plan, I'll also go ahead and upload that. So feel free to upload artifacts or resources that the space can use for reference. Anything below this paperclip icon, you don't necessarily need to worry about because AI will fill all of the fields out for you. So I'll just go ahead and click Generate All Fields, and it will create a new image, a new subtitle, and descriptions for the teacher and the student. There you go. So for me, this looks so much better. You'll notice that the pre-made space kind of had bare bones to it, but now it's actually more detailed with the help of AI down here. And now it's a space that I essentially made a copy of and then made my own. So that, my friends, is how you remix a space. So if I scroll back up here and move my video, you have the option to save it and go back to it in your Organize tab another time to continue editing or tweaking, or you can go ahead and save and launch it and share this right away with your students. I'll just go ahead and stop right there. Okay, so let's do a quick check. We've talked about how to find pre-made spaces and launch them and share them with your students. We talked about how to remix a space and make it your own. We also took a look at what the mission control looks like with student data. So finally, let's talk about how to build your own custom space. And really, there's no have to feel anxious about that because you don't need to be a super prompter or an AI engineer to create your own space. I'm going to show you a shortcut. Okay, so you just noticed that there is a button up here that reviewed my space, and now it is considered a public space. So if I were to go back to the Discover page and type in cell theory, this space is going to be in the results, and other teachers can now make a copy and remix it on their own. So again, you can launch it and share it with your students. You can make a copy and make your own tweaks to it. You can bookmark it. You can share this with another teacher or other science teachers in your department. You can continue to edit and tweak the prompt, and you can also delete it if you no longer need this space. All right, so to make your own space, we are going to use an assistant here. So we are using the Space Designer Assistant. So remember in the beginning, I talked to you that there were 3 components of SchoolAI. So assistants is one of them, and they are your chatbots or chat GPTs that are designed for teachers. So Co-Teacher is an example of a chat GPT that's been programmed to work with teachers. And I think of Co-Teacher as a thought partner. And here we'll focus on Space Designer. We can go ahead and launch it by clicking on the chat button down here. All right. So it looks very similar to ChatGPT layout if you've used ChatGPT before or any other large language model. So all your interactions will be down here. Here you've got that paperclip icon where you can upload files for reference. And I would just caution teachers that if you are uploading files, just make sure that it's scrubbed of personal identifying information. So no full student names, no locations, no IEPs. Even though that SchoolAI is considered a walled garden where any of these private information that you do put in, it will stay within this safe space, and it's not being used as data to train our large language models. So yes, it is safe to do so, but as a best practice, I would caution teachers and remind them to get in the habit of making sure that they look at those files that they upload and that it is scrubbed of PII. All right, and then over here on the right-hand side, you'll see my history. And this green button here just is a button to create a new chat. If I were to go here and start looking at my previous conversation about creating a space for debate, I can continue and pick up where I left off. But if I want to create a new space, that's where I'll click on New Chat. It clears the space for me and I can start with a brand new idea. So let me just move my video to the side here and let's start brainstorming an idea for a space. So like I said, absolutely no need to be a super prompter here. You can just tell the space designer your idea or your problem or a challenge that you're facing and it will walk you through the steps. So I'm going to say I want to create a back to school student survey for my science classroom. All right, so simple, it could just be a sentence just like that. And now it's going to start walking me through, ask me questions to flesh out my idea. You don't need to type everything, all your answers to both questions. You can just type one at a time and the space designer will continue guiding you through the steps. So I'll say, let's make this 7th grade science. And I want mix of both survey questions. And now it's going to start walking me through the 4-step framework. So if you've never prompted before, there are some frameworks that you can use to make your output better when interacting with an AI. And SchoolAI uses the 4-step framework, which is role, task, instructions, and requirements. So here for step 1, we're defining the role. What do we want this AI or this space to act as? So I want it to be a friendly TA or teacher assistant. Then it moves on to step 2. It reiterates what I've told it, and then it moves to step 2, which is providing this space a task. This is where we clarify what we want this AI or this space to do. What do we want it to achieve or accomplish? So looking at this bullet list, I will say I want a variety of different questions. Okay, and again, you can see it reiterates what I've told it before. Here's the tone, the mix of question types. Yes, and I will just say yes, all. So interactions or instructions, let me just let this roll through and then I'll scroll back up. The 3rd step right there are your instructions. So this is you telling the space or the AI how to achieve what you told it to do. So you're giving a little bit more specific criteria so it knows how to do it, how to achieve it. And then finally, we've got the last step, the 4 steps of the framework here, which is requirements. So think of requirements are those guardrails. What do the AI or the space absolutely need to do in order to make the space work? So here I'll just say no more than 10 questions. Students can give short answers or elaborate. Okay, and what you want to see at the end is this question. Would you like me to draft a complete prompt for your TA space? So I'm just going to add one more requirement here. I'm thinking of this space. I don't want my students to be using or interacting this space throughout the entire class period. I'm envisioning this as a bell ringer activity. So I would say make sure that this doesn't go past 10 minutes. Start wrapping up around 8 minutes, 8 to 9 minutes. And thank the students for their time. Okay, so now we can say yes, draft the full prompt. So if you're brand new to prompting, brand new to creating your own custom spaces, Space Designer is going to just take the information from you and write out the prompt. So here's the prompt. Again, the four steps framework: role, task, instructions, and requirements. And now all you need to do is copy and paste this, and I'll show you how to jump back into Spaces and make it. Isn't this amazing? All right, so let's click on the shish kebab icon here. Let's copy this message. So thank you, Space Designer. We're going to leave the assistant aside for now, and we are going to jump back into Spaces. And this time, instead of selecting Discover, we are going to select Create. By clicking on the Create button, this is going to lead you to your creator profile. So remember that section on featured creators in the Discover page? Well, you'll find yourself there too. When other teachers notice that they're using a lot of your spaces, they have the opportunity to view your profile and follow you so that they also get notifications anytime that you create a new space. So here are some of my previously created spaces. And now to create a new custom space, let's click on the Create button. Okay, so we're back in the Space Creator, or the back end, and at this time, the field boxes are empty. So you saw this before when we were working on remixing a space. So here in this field box, I'll go ahead and paste that entire prompt that the Space Designer created for me, and I'll just erase some of those pieces that do not need to be in there. Okay. All right, and I'll give it a title. I'll just say Back to School Science Student Survey. Now, if you were creating a space that's aligned with content or academic content, you can also click down here and add some of your standards. And that's just going to give it some more context, some more feedback to make this a better space. And here's that paperclip icon again. If this was a previous lesson, I would go ahead and upload that file, but this is just a getting to know you activity. So I have no standards and I have no files to upload. And everything down here, I'll go ahead and let AI autofill that for me. All right, and once that is filling itself out, I'll go ahead and preview the right hand side here. So remember, you noticed me that as I was using Space Designer in the Space Designer Assistant, or even when I was working over here in Space Creator, just remember that whatever that the AI outputs or provides you with, always consider that as a rough draft. So we are the human in the loop. We are the teachers. We know our content. We are the content experts. We're also the ones who have those relationships with our students. So we know what works with our students. We know what their accommodations and modifications are, what their interests and hobbies are. So always consider what the AI spits out for you as a rough draft, and go back, use the 80-20 rule, allow the AI to generate 80% of your content, and then go back the last 20% and always edit, tweak it, make it your own. So that is my AI literacy tip. Consider it as a rough draft, and you are the final editor. All right, so let's do a quick preview of the space, just to make sure that when my students interact with it, it's acting the way I want it to. So looking good. Let's say human bodies, body systems. Okay, and as that's previewing, I can see on my left side that the AI did a great job generating my cover image and autofilling, giving me some more details about what the space is so that teachers who come across it will know exactly what it is and that students who are using the space have an idea of what it is. If you do not like this image, feel free to click on regenerate again and it will come up with a image. Keep clicking on it until you find an image that you love. Alright, so back over to my window here, I'm going to run it through my IDK test. Alright, and I'm going to run it through one more time. And this is just me ensuring that the space is just gently redirecting my students. Love it. So it's redirecting and giving another option, moving on with the purpose of my survey. All right, so here I can go ahead and save it or save and launch. So I'll save it. And now it is a public space that can be discovered in a Discover page because I've got the remix button over here. All right, so I'm just going to wait for it to finish reviewing. And once it is published, I'll go back to the Launchpad and show you where you can find all of these spaces that we've remixed together and this custom space that we've built. Actually, I'm just going to let that go. I'll go ahead and click on Launchpad, and all of my spaces can be found in the middle of that Launchpad. So here are my creations. This will lead me to my creator page, and this actually leads me to my Organize tab. So collections are your folder. I can organize any of the spaces that I've created or have used, launched from other teachers. And you can also find them for file time. All right, so that was a great exploration of SchoolAI spaces. Let's go back and take a look at my Canva deck. All right, so let's do a recap. We've talked about what a SchoolAI space is. We've discovered and launched a pre-made space. We've remixed a space to make it more of our own. And we've also built our very own custom space using the Space Designer Assistant. Finally, we also took a look at the mission control to track student engagement. That was a lot. And I know that that might be overwhelming, but my advice as a tech coach, as a community coach to you, is to just pick one and try it out. Choose your way, whether it's starting with a pre-made space, starting with a remixing space, or starting with custom built spaces. Wherever you are in your learning journey, pick what's best for you and just try one small change. If you want to know more about SchoolAI, I encourage you to join the SchoolAI educator at this URL address. There you'll find tons of great on-demand resources. So we have live instructor-led sessions. If you'd like to learn more about spaces or tools or assistance, we also have asynchronous on-demand courses. You can try out the level 1 or level 2 certified educator courses. And there too, you will learn more about SchoolAI and its major components. And you can also check out the micro learning courses. Don't overwhelm yourself this summer break. Pick a pathway and that best fits. And finally, I ask for your favor here. If you could scan this QR code with your cell phone or type in that URL address at the bottom in your desktop or your laptop and provide me with such feedback. I would love to hear from you. I would love to learn about which spaces that you've explored and if you're open to it, to share some of the spaces that you've remixed or created. I love sharing and celebrating everyone's successes. So thank you for learning with me today, everyone. I wish you all a wonderful, sunshine-filled summer and that you have an inspiring start to your school year with AI, at least with SchoolAI.